pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to today's meeting of the Transportation Licensing Commission. Pursuant to the provisions of Section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, notice is hereby given that if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Have the commissioners had an opportunity to read the draft minutes from last month's meeting?
Yes.
Is there a motion regarding approval?
Move to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We've got a long agenda today. Mr. Fields has pointed out to me a couple of items that we could take out of order to quickly consider. The first is under other vehicles for hire. There's a company application for no ceilings limo service with James M. Bonner's driver application. Mr. Fields?
The application is in order. Mr. Bonner, are you present?
Yes.
He did fail to list. He did fail to list one charge dating back to 2004. Other than that, everything else is in order.
Mr. Bonner, what did you forget to list?
I put down the wrong date. I put down 2008 and it was 2004. And I didn't add, it was speeding, but it was reckless driving and speeding. And one, the same thing.
He got part of it, but since it was reckless, we thought we'd bring it to you, but otherwise, he did make an effort.
Make a motion. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Next item is under booting services.
Thank you.
Mr. Bonner. We've got a new company application for Golden Rule Parking Enforcement LLC. Mr. Fields.
Golden Rule has applied to be a booting company in Davidson County. They fill out the application, provided the appropriate information, so everything's in order.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, thank you for your patience. We'll go back now to going in order of the agenda. We've got a public hearing today. We have our annual hearing for to consider low speed and pedal company applications. We have a number of people I expect that will want to speak on this issue. We also have Metro Councilman Jeremy Elrod, who's also requested to speak. Mr. Elrod?
Hi, my name is Jeremy Elrod, I'm the Metro Councilman, District 26, 5373 Trousdale Drive, in case you need it. I'm currently the Public Works Chairman, although I may be rotating off, but I just want to come say three quick things. First of all, I want to say thank y'all for your time. I know every commission member or board member across Metro serves is on a volunteer basis, but y'all especially have hard work. I'm one of the probably 2 or 3 people in the city that have ever watched y'all on Channel 3 at length. My wife doesn't like that very much, but be that as it may, but I see the hard work that y'all do, the things that y'all have to decide on. I want to say I appreciate that because there's some of the boards get a lot of attention, planning, BZA, that kind of thing, but watching y'all, I know how hard some of the decisions y'all have. You have careers, businesses that y'all have to make decisions on. So as a council member, I wanted to say thank y'all for that, and I truly, truly mean that. And in that vein, I wanted to also I guess, ask y'all and see, y'all have such a difficult time because of the number of issues that you have, the complexity, the changing environment downtown. I just saw a picture on Twitter today of a 3-wheeled small red car that apparently y'all can't regulate because it's a rental, which I don't even know what that even means. So I'll be talking to Billy about that later. But because of the changing environment in Nashville and the tourism industry, y'all are feeling the brunt of that. And while other commissions, are seeing growth in those areas, y'all are seeing it in the tourism industry because of. And while we greatly appreciate the businesses that are investing their time and money into their businesses and into making Nashville a good tourism destination, y'all have to deal with it as far as trying to also make it a livable place for downtown, for other places. And I wanted to just, I guess, talk to y'all and let you know there is, I believe, an appetite at the council to do more as far as regulating the different types of vehicles downtown, whether it be stricter regulation, broader as far as what y'all can regulate. So I wanted to come and tell y'all that. I'm not sure what that is. As a councilman, I'm got my hand in several different pots, so I'm not exactly sure and so, what that would be. So if y'all have ideas, I welcome you to talk to me personally through Mr. Fields. Y'all have great legal expertise as well. I'm willing to carry ordinances or resolutions and to strengthen your powers, broaden your powers, whatever y'all think that we need to do as a city. If y'all need more authority from the council, I'm at least willing to carry the ordinance. And I think the last ordinance that y'all brought, that Mr. Fields brought, there was, I think, some hesitancy from some of the companies. We amended it, but it passed unanimously, and there wasn't much controversy among the council members that there's a need to do more about vehicles downtown, West End, 12 South, that kind of area. So I just wanted to bring that to y'all. If y'all have ideas of what we can do more as a council to give y'all more authority, or if we need to take away things that are going on, I'm open to ideas. I think other council members are open to ideas because there's not going to be neighbors are going to show up to planning commission meetings about their neighborhood zoning change, but a lot of folks come downtown, and I think there's a feeling across the city that downtown is becoming an amusement park with the different businesses that are operating, or really it's vehicles. It's the vehicles. It's not the businesses necessarily. It's the vehicles and just the atmosphere. So if there's something that we can do, there are not going to be a lot of folks coming down here asking y'all and talking to y'all about the number of permits I see on your agenda or requests for them. So if there's something more that we can do as a council to give y'all authority, tweak it, whatever that is, I think there's an appetite for the council, at the council for that. And the third thing is I do see that there are more applications for, or requests for permits to operate downtown. I'm going to leave y'all to, I don't know the particulars of those, but as requests, following I guess my other comments is, have caution about doing that because of how many of them are already downtown. Y'all have got studies, y'all know the numbers, so I don't want to get into y'all's expertise. But that's just something I know I've heard from folks through social media, through people that want to bring this up to them. It's something that they're puzzled about it. Now, while I know that there's a demand, there's the balance between, are we a welcoming city for tourists and that kind of thing downtown, but we also need to make downtown Nashville and other parts of Nashville welcoming for those that still that work and live here. So I just wanted those three things. If there's anything that I can do for y'all, again, please, I'm open to do it. Thank you for Mr. Fields for everything that he does. That's it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fields, I've received one request to speak from the audience. It's from Mr. Jim Burrows, but I assume we're going to want to hear from each of the applicants as well.
Yes, sir. When you'll open the public hearing and hear from the applicants, we also have a representative from Metropolitan Police Department and the Convention and Visitors Corporation as well. Since they're frequent flyers, we typically don't ask them to fill out a form, but we do anticipate they'd want to speak.
So the Metro PD and who else?
Convention and Visitors Corporation.
All right, let's hear from the Convention and Visitors Corporation first.
And you're formally opening the public hearing?
Yes. Yeah, I apologize. I meant to do that when we had Mr. Elrod speak.
Good afternoon. I'm Terry Clements with the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm not going to speak necessarily for or against additional permits. What I am going to point out to you, and Councilman Elrod just was very eloquent in what he said. Our first concern on everything that comes up is safety, and the image that this city has around the country and around the world as a safe place to visit. We have achieved 6 years, 72 continuous months worth of success. Virtually no other city that we know of in the United States has ever had a 6-year run without a hiccup. Some of that has created the problems that we're dealing with now, and almost all of those problems relate to real estate and the fact that there isn't any more of it and there's not going to be any more of it. Our concern is that we're hearing from a lot of musicians that they can't get in and out of the parking spaces that are supposed to be for them to load and unload. We have seen a tremendous amount of congestion downtown, and unfortunately we just don't have a solid way of enforcing it. And I think that's our biggest concern is can we enforce what we have today, and if we add more, can we enforce what that is going to entail? So I ask you to keep those things in mind as you deliberate today and think in terms of safety.
Thank you, Mr. Clements. We'll also hear from the Metropolitan Police Department.
Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Ricky Bearden of the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, Central Precinct. The only issues that we foresee with additional pedal turrets and slow-moving vehicles on the road is things that we go through on a daily basis now. When we have a large amount of motor vehicles on the road getting in and out of downtown Nashville, it makes it difficult when we have a slow-moving vehicle in front of them. Also, with the amount of pedestrian traffic we have with people visiting, especially between the hours of 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and also from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Thursday, Friday, Saturday evenings, the amount of traffic and the people that we see. As Nashville continues to grow, we need to find new innovative ways to fit everyone in, and a large amount of people coming into downtown Nashville and adding a slow-moving vehicle, it'll make it difficult for officers and everyone else to travel the streets of Nashville. Thank you.
We'll hear first from Celebrity Pedal Tavern, LLC.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sean Marshall.
Jim Hill.
We are just in front of you this afternoon. Obviously, we submitted our information. We also did so last year, similar application. To keep it brief, obviously very sensitive and aware of the things that Sergeant Weeks just spoke of, and Mr. Clements as well. Our operators are very familiar and understand the safety needs and the operations of downtown, and obviously would keep that in mind moving forward. And unless you all have any specific questions about our application, I think that's really everything that we wanted to bring up right now.
Just requesting
3, I believe.
the applications.
1.
It's not.
That's okay.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Thank you. We'll also hear from Country Music Crawler.
Just 1.
Good afternoon, sir. Robert Pizzatola speaking, co-owner of Country Music Crawler. We have an application for 2 additional licenses to meet the demand placed on our company. Currently, we only have 1 license operating downtown. We have turned away numerous requests for our service, and we've pushed them to the other companies that are operating with much greater number of licenses. We do have a bike already on site that's ready to go. It is, to speak to the safety, it is equipped with seat belts, as a matter of fact. And we have another one that's being built right now, which will also have seat belts. So, an effort for this small business, locally owned, veteran-owned business. We appreciate if you take into consideration our application for the 2 additional licenses to make us more competitive. Thank you.
Thank you. Music City Party Bike.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Heather Cormier, and I'm the owner of Music City Party Bike. We are asking for 1 permit. Quickly, I'd like to address the main concerns for the Paddle Taverns. First, obviously, being the traffic. The RPM came in last year and did a study. I think it was Mr. Murphy. Based on his study, the Paddle Taverns went through an intersection at 5.7 miles an hour. Ours has an electric assist and is able to go up to 12 miles an hour, which obviously would help with the traffic immensely, especially going through intersections or making a left-hand turn. Even at full capacity and a full tank, it was able to do 12 miles an hour. We also are interested in doing different routes. I don't know if that's something that's been talked about before, specifically in the East Nashville area. I feel like there's a need for something out there. There's a ton of, first of all, let me back up a little bit. I currently own 2 Girls and a Hot Dog. We've been in business for six years, and we do vending in East Nashville and downtown Nashville, so I've seen all of the traffic issues. But there is a need for something like that. The locals would like to do the Paddle Tavern, but they don't want to be with the annoying bridesmaids or the groomsmen or whatever. So I'm not sure if that's been talked about, but we would like to establish a route in East Nashville. I clearly, being a business owner myself, I clearly understand the need, or the Paddle Tavern companies, especially Nashville Paddle Tavern and Sprocket Rocket and Music Country Crawler. I understand that they just want to keep it to themselves. I'd love to keep the hot dog business to myself, you know, one of the original people. Ideally, that's really not reality. So we just ask for an equal chance, you know, just an equal opportunity. Just a brief note that there is definitely a need. I understand the traffic, but there is a need for additional Paddle Taverns. As Country Music Crawler just said, you know, they turn away several calls. Nashville Paddle Tavern, the last meeting last year, they said they could only get to 55% of their calls. I think it was 55%. You know, we're willing to be confined to a different route if that's what it takes, just to stay away from downtown until the construction is, you know, finished, or at least out of the way a little bit. So let's try. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you. Next, we have Nashville Paddle Tavern.
Hi, Angie Gleason with Nashville Paddle Tavern. My husband really wanted to be here today, but he had to leave, unfortunately, for a last-minute meeting. I believe he submitted a statement with our application. Basically, I'll just kind of recap that real quick. We were a little surprised that this kind of came through again this year. We were under the impression after last year's meeting at the traffic study and everything that the city was capped out with number of bikes, number of companies, and everything. So when this came to us, you know, we did our due diligence, I guess, and only applied for permits in the area of expanding our business to out, like she just mentioned, other areas if you feel that there is a need for the city to add more. But we also agreed that there's too much. It's already overmaxed, it's diluted, and if we add any more into it, it's just going to take away the novelty of the industry as a whole. No other city in the country has as many companies as we already do. We definitely, we thrive for competition. We think that we have a healthy number of competition already. And despite huge demand that everybody's talking about, it's not I'm sorry, it's not a need for convenience, necessity of convenience. It's basically, it's entertainment. And as mentioned before, it's pretty much a circus downtown right now. And we just don't see that there should be, you know, any other congestion and more bikes flooding up the streets. If this was about demand, you know, we obviously have the highest call volume, we have the most amount of bikes, and yes, we are pushing tours away, but that we still feel fit that there's just not enough room. We only put 6 of our bikes downtown of the 10 permits that we do have. And so if we wanted to be selfish, you know, we would flood everything with all of our 10 of our bikes if we wanted to. I think that's all I have right now.
How many pedal tavern type carriages do you have?
We have 10 permits. We have 12 bikes, 2 as backup bikes.
And how many pedicabs do you have?
We don't do pedicabs.
Okay, I see that. I mixed up part of another person's application, but I apologize about that. So you have 10 in operation and 2 additional?
2 as backup bikes, yeah.
Okay.
What's your application for?
I believe we applied for 5. We're just asking that if you are going to do more permits, give those to the companies who have already been existing and running, and we can expand off of the brands that we have created instead of diluting the market and the industry as a whole. And we would not put those bikes downtown. We'd put them in, expand to Midtown and Sobro that we've already been running.
Sobro is downtown.
What was that?
Sobro is downtown.
Well, the Gulch area, Sobro.
It's downtown.
Yeah, okay. Lower Broadway is what I meant then.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Gleason. Just so you know, we consider this every year, so each year we'll have an annual meeting to determine if there's a need for additional pedal taverns and pedicabs.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Next is Nashville pedicabs.
Hello.
Hello.
Dustin Olson, Director of Operations, Nashville Pedicab. We are applying for additional permits. To be honest, these additional permits are going to be used for special events, Titans games, Stanley Cup playoffs, hopefully again, New Year's, things like that. We personally don't have the demand to fill out more than the 20 bikes we have right now. And the city is pretty congested. Those 7 bikes would be additional permits for, like I said, event riding. If I could fill them. And that's about it. I went over everything in the application. If you want me to review that, or if you have any questions on that, I'm free to answer those questions.
And just to be clear, you do not operate any pedal taverns. Yours are all pedicabs.
No, sir. All pedicabs.
You'd be comfortable with a restriction that said only for special events?
Yes.
As defined by us?
Yes.
And you're Patrick Lynch?
No, that's the he lives in New Orleans.
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
They want 5?
They want 7.
Okay. Oh,
Next
okay.
is pedal chariots.
Yeah, thank you. 7.
What I'm handing to y'all is just a reference sheet of how many pedicabs are running in similar cities to Nashville. big issue here where we kind of get lumped in with the pedal bars, which are much bigger than the rest of us. So I just wanted to have a reference sheet there for you while I was discussing this. My name is Sean Orphy. I'm the owner and manager of Pedal Chariots. This is my attorney representative, David Bullock, in case you guys had any questions for me that I wasn't able to answer about my application. Well, first of all, thank you guys for taking your time today. I know you're busy, you got a lot on the docket. I appreciate you taking the time to hear me. That's why I was in by the original application deadline. I've been in the industry for 4 years in aspects from driving to management to ownership throughout the U.S. I currently own and operate 5 bikes that I take to events throughout the U.S. from Coachella to Bonnaroo to cities that just need us in time of need like Jacksonville and Gainesville in Florida. The rest of the year the bikes are sitting here in Nashville, not able to operate, not creating jobs, not moving all the people we have coming in downtown. 20 of our 23 permits downtown are currently owned by one company. And if you look at us compared to other cities, even if you prove the 7 that Nashville Pedicab approved and my 5 today, that would only put the city at 35 active permits for when it comes to pedicab vehicles. And that's well below what most cities carry. If we were to be in line with some other cities, we'd be much closer to 40 or 50. So when you keep that in mind when you're trying to consider all of these, giant slow-moving pedal bars that are causing a lot of consternation, please keep us pedicabs considered to our own true point A to point B transportation vehicles. Do you guys have any questions for me specifically? I feel like this is a topic that's been discussed a lot last year, and you guys are fairly familiar with all the requests coming in.
I think we've got it covered. Thank you, though.
I appreciate it.
We also have a request to speak by Mr. Jim Burrow.
What's Lieutenant doing here?
Jim Burrow, it's going to take me longer to walk up here, then I'll speak. It's already been addressed, everything that I had concerns of, and I'm in the taxi business, and I see firsthand as you do what's going on downtown, the congestion, and it's like if you consider the safety of what's going on downtown with the low-speed vehicles versus cars, the congestion it causes downtown. Many of you are downtown, you see it yourselves, and the need for any more low-speed vehicles. It's all the construction, everything's going on downtown. It's a mess, and we all are trying to survive, and I hope that everybody can, but I think we ought to stay where we are and try to be as safe as we can and maneuver among it until we can get better streets and more construction done, and maybe there'll be more room then to move around. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in attendance who would like to speak regarding our consideration of granting additional permits for low-speed and pedal taverns and pedal cabs?
Mr. Chairman, Sean Henry, this is the first time I've had the pleasure of addressing this commission, and I certainly know your staff very well from years past. 315 Dedrick Street represents Sprocket Rocket. There was reference to Sprocket Rocket just a moment ago. Our only perspective here is that I think what Councilman Elrod mentioned in terms of balance, what Terry Clements mentioned, what Sergeant Bearden referenced, these are issues that even Commander Drake mentioned in the report that RPM did, the traffic impact study that was done last November, where Commander Drake said that the department is seriously concerned with the safety impact of any further increase in vehicle permits in the downtown area. So we believe the market is rather saturated, as one of the other opponents mentioned. And importantly, I just want to remind the Commission of what your standard of review is for issuing a certificate of convenience and necessity. It's to take into consideration whether the existing service, including the number of pedal carriages, is adequately serving the public need. And so we submit that what's out there today is adequately serving the need. We don't find that And we don't think you can find, based on what you've heard here so far this morning or this afternoon, that there's a compelling reason to issue any new permits. Thank you.
At this time, we'll close the public hearing and open the matter for deliberation amongst the commissioners.
Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate to ask the applicant some specific questions regarding motor assist and time restrictions, since we received some of that information from a few,
Yes,
not all?
that's fine.
Do you care if I do that?
No, is there someone in particular you wanted to ask?
Well, I was just going to go down the list.
Okay.
Starting with Celebrity Pedal Tavern, do you all have, or could you get motorized assist?
We already had.
You have it. And one person or two indicated that they would accept certain restrictions on locations and special events. Would that be something that would work?
Sure, it's open-ended, I guess, but yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
There's not anything specific on that. Thank you. And then on Country Music Crawler, do you have on your two additional, are they assisted?
Yes, they are, sir.
And the restrictions as well, even though they're open-ended?
We all operate outside the boundaries.
Okay. And Party Bike, they said electric assist, right?
Yes, sir.
And restrictions?
Yes.
And then on Nashville Pedal Tavern, we heard that 5 additional would not be downtown. Are they motor assist?
Yes, we do have motor assists on our bikes in the Midtown area.
Okay. And then the Nashville Pedicab, you indicated special events, and I believe pedal chariots. Did you? Where's pedal chariot?
Special events, because I currently have no permits. I'm just trying to get my foot in the door. Last year I asked for 10. This year I'm asking for 5, which is half of that. Just enough to, get me my foot in so I can just hear, prove need as to why we're asking for 10. All of my vehicles do have motor assists. They're governed to the max 15 miles per hour as prescribed by the city code. So, the traffic study last year showed the average speed of a car through an intersection downtown was only 17 miles per hour. And with my motor assist, they could easily go 12 to 15 miles per hour. So, I would find it hard to argue would be that much of a hindrance to downtown. That's
You get somebody really strong, they'd take it up to 17? That's a joke.
If I would bring, it's all on their leg power, and they're, I'm trying to make sure they're still pedaling. I don't want them to go karting around. I want them to pedal. I want them to sweat for the money.
But you might accept restrictions as well.
I believe we're already restricted by time. I might find it for pedicabs. We do point A to B transportation. I would accept like a boundary similar to the golf carts do, but it would be tough for my pedicab not to take someone, say, to Tootsie's when Nashville Pedicab would take someone to Tootsie's.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do I understand this correctly? We're looking at 3 applications for basically what I call the pedal tavern type of operation, and then 3 for pedicabs?
There are actually 4 applications for pedal carriages and 2 for pedicabs.
Okay. Can we split that up in consideration rather than?
We
They're
can.
covered in the same ordinance, but you can.
I spoke to Mr. Fields, had that same question, and we can take up the question of whether there's a need for pedal taverns versus a need for pedicabs.
We want to do that?
Well, a couple of the applicants mentioned the RPM study from last year. And there's currently a downtown mobility study that's being undertaken in relationship to the mass transit plan.
Correct.
Where does that stand?
We're still a couple of months away from additional information.
Okay. It's more than a refresh of last year.
Yes, the
It's
study
pretty-
last year did not take all the vehicles. This time, the study will have all slow-moving vehicles, including the low-speed vehicles, to be covered.
Okay.
Our legal advisor
Uh-oh.
has pointed out to me that the phraseology in the ordinance talks specifically, uses the word "and" when you're talking about pedal carriages and petty cabs.
It says, take into consideration the number of pedicabs and pedal carriages when making your determination.
I may have misread it. So it would be your opinion then that they would need to be considered altogether based on that phraseology?
Probably.
But so we could consider, and I'm trying to figure out, make sense of that ordinance, because I saw that too, but would it be appropriate for us to consider still the question separately by also each time considering the number of pedal carriages and pedicabs in service?
Yes.
In other words,
Just make sure that you are clear as to what, why.
your first finding would have to be, in order to go forward, is there has been proof given for additional certificates of public convenience and necessity and/or additional permits. Assuming you go to that, then you would look at each application individually, and you can certainly say, we think this, we don't think this, and make decisions based on each application. In other words, just because you say they're available doesn't mean all of them automatically would be approved. They would then go into a second of actually determining and awarding. Currently, there are 10 let's see, there are the Nashville Pedal Tavern has 10. Sprocket Rocket has 4, and Music City Crawler has 1. Sprocket Rocket's got 4. 9. Excuse me, I thought those were the low speeds. 9 then, so a total of 20.
So it's 10.
10, then 9, and then 1.
Okay.
So there could be, theoretically, could be 20 on the road. There are 23.
The Nashville Pedicab has 20 of those.
Mm-hmm. And there were no requests for low-speed vehicles, so we won't have to, there's no applications for those.
We did the study last year. Make recommendations on how many?
I didn't bring the study with me specifically. Typically what the study was saying is that downtown is congested, and we are challenged with traffic on a daily basis. But I think the next study will, clearly we have not had any change. We may have had an increase. We know we've had additional construction projects, which again continue to be part of the issues with closed streets and closed rights of way.
Well, they eventually go away. They might get replaced, but they eventually do go away.
Hopefully within the next 5 years, we'll be sort of finished with construction. We won't?
Kind of hope not.
Well, I guess never mind, I hope we build a lot more.
Is it, back to the study, I'm sorry to go back to that, but is it too late in the game for them to look at and evaluate? Like if there is, you know, last time we looked at the times of the day, or the days of the week and the times of the day, is there a way to look at that and say, you know, 2 a.m. is fine, you can do whatever you want? Not really, but.
The study, they should be comprehensive. We could go back to them and ask for additional information.
I mean, it might be too late, but.
We could
always
certainly
find out.
ask, you know, for future decision making, it might be available to us.
Yeah.
Excuse me, are we using any preset or previous models to, as a bar line for what we're considering? I noticed in here, as far as the number of pedicabs in service as to what we have listed, it is a little low according to these numbers. Of course, we're not as big as New York City or any of those cities, and they have considerable amounts of pedicabs there. But are we kind of going off of our own study, or are we using a model as a guide?
We've not adopted a model. Typically what our decisions have been made on is based on availability of space on the streets, topography of the streets. When we look, one of the things that we'll be able to show you is we'll be looking at topographical maps for the first time, because some vehicles are going to be easy moving up and around the hills of downtown, but there's some areas that are almost prohibitive for some of the vehicles that we license to be able to get up in a reasonable manner or get down. You know, while I appreciate the study and it's interesting to see, I wonder, you know, looking at there's 505 in Texas. I've not been to Austin. I know a little about Texas. Is downtown Austin relatively flat, and is their area wider than what we're talking about? Because unfortunately, everybody wants to operate from Commerce Street to KVB from 1st to 8th. That's the primary area. Now they can argue with me, but I work on the streets pretty regular, so I know where the operations are going because I visit your drivers. But it's certainly challenging to put more vehicles in an area that's as congested as it is.
I think it's nice to look at too, but keep in mind the entirety of New York City with all 5 boroughs. To get that 8.5 million people, that they have 27,000 people per square mile, and Davidson County has 1,200. They're operating on a different plane there than we are. Pedicabs are needed throughout the city, throughout those 5 boroughs. We're not at the level of density. Boston's kind of the same way. You could put every citizen in the state of Tennessee inside of Davidson County, and we don't have the population density that Boston does. There's not a real comparison on the geography that they operate. I mean, it's nice to have the number, but when we're talking geography, I think you're exactly right.
Based on what we've heard today, I mean, it seems that we could easily determine that there is not a need for either pedal taverns or pedicabs. You know, this is something we decide every year, so it is, you know, by no means a permanent position that we have to take every year. But there is an additional study coming out later this year that is going to be more comprehensive than the one that was performed last year. And we've also heard from Metro PD as well as the Convention and Visitors Corporation, which and both of those spokespersons cautioned us to consider the safety needs and operations of what we have currently in place and our ability to enforce what we're currently allowing to operate.
Well, I would concur that I haven't heard any evidence that there's a need, both for convenience or public necessity, for additional units to move people around. I've heard a lot of people say they want to get in the business, and I can understand that. And part of me would be inclined to want to spread it out a little bit more, but certain companies got in here early and they got the licenses, holding them. But I haven't heard anyone tell me why why the public out there is clamoring for more pedal taverns or pedal cabs.
Kurt, Mona Lisa, y'all haven't spoken up yet, so.
The only thing I'd like to add, and I know it's a bit of a different thing, but a couple of you have been on the commission with me long enough to know we kind of went through this with taxis, and we're told we had to have more, had to have more, had to have more. And for several years now, we've been in a scenario where they have not been able to fulfill the amount of permits that we've given out in that scenario. So I think one of two things. I don't personally see a need, or if we want to wait a couple months till that study comes out and let it be more of a guide for us, that would be okay as well. But I don't see a compelling need at this point.
I think I would agree with what has been said, which is why I haven't spoken up. Those are all my thoughts and concerns as well. And again, even with the 2-hour restrictions in the morning and afternoon, traffic is still bad, and during the times they're not supposed to be high traffic, is still bad. So I think from a safety concern as well right now, I'd agree as well with that study that's coming out will give us a little more information to make a more educated decision.
And I'm not opposed to, if we want to wait for that to come out.
My sense is I would prefer that we make a decision today, only because this is an annual.
Sure.
We make this decision annually, and we, consider a number of other transportation vehicles annually throughout the year.
Yep.
So I do think it's important that we consider the issues that we have in front of us. Presently, the companies have certainly gone to the trouble to meet our deadlines to get their materials before us. So I don't want to just leave them hanging without a determination, so they can make appropriate decisions themselves.
Let me ask one other question, and just so I've kind of exhausted everything on my plate anyway. Has there been a predetermination made of if we wanted to allow things outside of the zone we currently do? Is there an area that we've already determined for that? Would that require us giving a license to somebody and then coming back and telling them, but you can't go anywhere but here?
The commission has at times approved certificates that would allow a company to operate in a specific area only. We've done that with carriages. We did that with, we actually approved additional low-speed vehicles for the area around Opry Mills that can only be used at Opry Mills. So you have done it in the past.
But we had those areas going into.
Correct.
Now we don't have those areas.
Correct.
So that was really my question.
No, we don't. They're not space. In other words, staff has not put together.
Right. And it's a serious enough thing that, I would prefer to have the same kind of traffic study, whatever, before we said you can go XYZ in East Nashville or whatever, if we were inclined to do that. So that answers my question.
Kind of thinking along that same line, we had a number of applicants indicated they would accept certain restrictions, and we've done things, and it seems like it's centered around downtown. The traffic study is, what would be the process if we were to consider another neighborhood like Opryland? There's entertainment, transportainment.
That's interesting words. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you were to consider transportainment for an area, what I would suggest is that we do ask for a study. Again, we'll have to have it funded, but ask for a study and ask them to very specifically look at an area outside the downtown area, which as you say now stretches from the Gulch and beyond all the way, in some people's mind, across the river. Just in some people's mind. So if we do have a little history in the Opry land area with the low-speed vehicles. They're under contract, and basically remembering that everything on the Opry land and Opry Mill side is private property owned by Opry. Those streets are not metro streets, so they have to operate on a contract with the property owners. So we do have some basic information, but we don't have it today. Well, they'll have to finish their one study, then we can start another one. But it certainly could be available for another annual meeting.
Would any of the commissioners like to make a motion regarding whether there's a need for additional low-speed and pedal company permits? Specifically, is there a need or public necessity for additional permits?
Staff resources to monitor. If there were added ones. I mean, I feel like you all are.
We have, when I came back to the position in 2012, we had 5 staff members. We had 6, counting we converted one of the inspector positions to an office position. So we are still with the same number we had in 2012, and we've added a lot, double the cabs and on and on.
So basically twice this capacity with the same staff.
We're probably at 800, 825 taxi cabs. I'd have to get the exact numbers on, like, for instance, the limousines and so forth, but we've certainly grown all of the industries. The limousine industry is much larger today than it was. Many new companies, and as you know, you approve all of them, so you know what those volumes are. And then booting was already available. Then we added low-speed vehicles, pedicabs, and pedal carriages. And we have another wave of new vehicles, I think, that are going to probably be coming on later in the year.
There's no more questions. I'd like to make a motion that there is not a necessity for any new permits to be issued as a matter of public safety or necessity at this time.
I'll second that.
Before we vote, is that motion properly worded from the ordinance as to what determination we need to make?
He said necessity, public convenience and necessity. I think you covered it in this part.
Yes, the way the motion that public necessity and convenience has not been proven is what I think his motion was.
And you second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And because we've found that there was no no additional permits are going to be granted because there's no additional public need or convenience. that has been met, then we don't even have to decide the actual permits and applications themselves?
There's a couple of ways to do that, I think. One, in the past, commission, anything that was not approved by the commission at a meeting, it would just die on its own. It would probably be cleaner if all the permits were denied. To make, if you didn't find the public need, then you would deny the second, and it would be the questions would not come up saying, well, my permit was never dealt with. So it would be mostly a simple motion to follow the other.
I'll make a motion that the permits that came before us today be denied.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on our agenda, we have a review request for a change to the operational boundary for low-speed vehicles.
I asked the engineers to do a new map in terms of make sure it was a clean map for y'all to be able to look at. The boundary area that you'll see that's over there shows the area in which the low-speed vehicles can operate. Request was made, and I think they'll be happy to discuss it. There were some specific areas where they felt like if they just had a little bit of a little of additional space, they would be able to service more customers, including hotels and restaurants and so forth. So it'd probably be more appropriate for them to actually go point by point to describe those to you.
Who's up?
Hi there. Thank you, Mr. Fields, for getting us on the agenda for this. My name is Valerie Iridia. I'm with Sprocket Rocket, and we also have Jeremy Wist, and he will actually go over the boundaries with you. We actually have this map that he kind of outlined, and then he will go ahead and tell you what he's going to suggest.
And Valerie, I didn't get your name.
Jeremy Wist.
Wist.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for taking your time today to reconsider the routes of the downtown low-speed vehicle service area. If you can see, I've circled 3 separate parts on the maps that I've handed to you. Number 1 are the streets labeled in orange that are the non-service streets, including, let's see, Church Street between 14th and 21st Avenue, Broadway from 14th Avenue to 21st, West End Avenue from 14th Avenue to 31st, and then 21st Avenue into Hillsborough Village up to Boulevard, which is where the current cutoff is. We believe that now with the 4 to 6 p.m. weekday restrictions, there's a lot less traffic on these roads while we are working. If we do open them up to us, it will give us several new hotels that we will be able to access to get the customers that are calling for rides into downtown. There's also several restaurants and shopping off of those roads, and then the route to Centennial Park will be more direct. Right now, going from downtown around the riverfront area to Centennial Park will take about 20 to 25 minutes, having to go up, cross over, and use back streets by avoiding all of these. We are also asking for a half-a-mile extension in the 12 South neighborhood. It currently ends at Ashwood, which is before you get into any of the 12 South district. We have a lot of phone calls with requests to go down to Draper James, the I Believe in Nashville stop, or Sign, and all of the restaurants down there. So we're asking it to be extended to Paris Avenue at the end of 12 South neighborhood. And then the last one is the Love Circle area of downtown. A lot of tourists know about this from just Googling what to do in Nashville. It's a great place to go up and overlook, and we would like to include that on one of our tour stops while we do a tour around the city. We'd love to go up there and show them everything that the city has to offer.
How are you going to get there?
To Love Circle?
Yeah.
Or, all right, so you go up Wedgwood, and we can either go on to Natchez Trace or Natchez up in through the development. Or if West End does become open, you can turn left onto Orleans Drive, go up around there, and then onto Love Circle.
If we didn't,
I know these maps are
we
really
did not approve the changes to the orange streets, are you able to get to Love Circle?
We can, yes.
You can?
Yep. So basically, if you came off of...
Do you think your vehicle can safely traverse that area with traffic?
I do believe. That part of town up to Love Circle is mostly residential, so there's not much traffic on those roads.
In
anyway.
Love Circle?
What was that?
In Love Circle?
In Love Circle, yes.
Those roads are fairly small, though.
Yeah, they're narrow.
The neighborhood scale versus arterial or collector streets.
Mr. Fields, quick question just for clarification. When they're doing tours, paid tours, which is separate from the other scenarios that we have, are they also restricted by exactly the same
Yes.
area? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Field, are any of the requested roads otherwise restricted based on speed limit or anything?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So you're asking for this access for for time? Is it not that you can't get to them, it's just
The only
the
one,
access would be a shorter amount of time
right,
for you?
the only one with time would be access to Centennial Park. We can get to Centennial Park, however, you have to go pretty out of the way to get back over to there. Since we can only cross the non-service streets across at an intersection, we'd have to go up through the Midtown area across 19th and then up Hayes Street to Louise, where it turns into Elliston, where we're back allowed, when Church turns into Elliston, we're allowed back onto the road. So just kind of, it's a lot of turns, a lot of stop signs, and it's less convenient on getting up there. And then the rest of them are just outside of the red barriers on the map where we are allowed.
Well, 12th Street's a pretty good ways outside the barrier, because you're wanting to go down past that park. That's
No, not past the park. So 12 South, right now the red ends at Ashwood, which is right where the Welcome to 12 South neighborhood sign used to be in the middle of the road. And that is right before Jenny. So we're just asking to get to Burger Republic at Paris Avenue, which is right past Edley's and the music shop.
That's a pretty narrow street as well.
It's just 2 lanes, isn't it?
I believe
Two
so.
lanes certainly for that.
With street parking.
And none of these areas are covered by the traffic study that
No.
underway, right? Of course.
Well, I guess I would be a little concerned that if we open this area up for you, we'd run into some problems with your friends and neighbors following you as well. And we would, because the 12th South area, that is a narrow, right where Jenny's is. I think they have a median that goes in there as well.
No, it's just 2 lanes, and then there's parking on each side as
Right.
well.
But that's a pretty narrow area, and I know, especially on Friday and Saturday night, it's really congested in that area. That's where that oyster bar and all that stuff is down in there, correct?
I'm not familiar with an oyster bar, but
But you're right, it's very crowded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even during the daytime on Saturday and weekends, so.
Right.
I mean, you've been out there, you've seen it.
correct.
You'll
yeah.
agree that people are walking across the street all over and there's traffic bumper to bumper through there.
From time to time there is, yes.
Yeah, and the Love Circle request, I have problems with that just because it is primarily residential.
Right.
And the original intent for creating these boundaries for the low-speed vehicles was to keep the low-speed vehicles confined to the downtown area while allowing you to get into areas of East Nashville and Midtown. While I appreciate the fact that it might be nice to take a passenger up to the top of Love Circle, that your reasons for wanting the additional your reasons for the request to get into that area just don't seem to match against the reasons why you're restricted from going in there in the first place.
And I might add, Mr. Chairman, originally, and I know you'll remember this, we debated heavily even making the area that big. You know, the original purpose was to be a very short-term, short area to move tourists around the immediate downtown area, and it continues to grow and grow and grow. So pretty soon, we're going to have to regulate you like taxis. I mean, the distance is getting too great.
I read the minutes, it looks like some people have trouble staying within the current boundaries anyway. Missed the meeting. Do we think it would be good to ask Mr. Clemens from the CVC if he has had requests from people interested in these? He's primarily serving visitors, and he may not have a record of any of those requests or not.
A lot of what they do on demand is on site, so that doesn't come through us.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody sending an email that says, we'd love to go to Love Circle. That's two loves, I guess. Sorry.
My other reflection is we're still evolving with this whole change in these new forms of transportation in Nashville. And we did set up a boundary, you know, we got your input on it. And I know your business is also evolving and you're getting some additional needs and you're coming to us, you know, in a respectful manner to explain it to us. I feel like we kind of need to have the brakes on it for a little while and to keep considering this input. And I appreciate you all bringing it to us, but I think we all here need to take a deep breath and be able to see how things are working out. As the public deals with this changing forms of transportation, as tourism in Nashville is increasing, and you know, we've got some conflicts between the residential neighborhoods and the people who want to go see things. So I'm just not ready to start modifying the things we just put in 8-9 months ago.
And we've had input from council members in the past where it regards to their specific district. A lot of that's been from Councilman O'Connell and prior to him, Council Lady Gilmore. I think we might be stretching into other areas that we're not as familiar with because we haven't had the input from those representatives.
My question, we did the original boundaries. Obviously, the council people weighed in, but what about residents?
I think we counted on the expertise of the electeds to yeah.
The Love Circle, I just think it's too dangerous and it's residential. I feel like almost like we're doing a disservice to the people that live there by not hearing their voice on that. And then 12th South just always seems like it's packed and crowded. And I mean, how would you unload if you were that far down? Because every time I drive down there, there is never a parking spot on the street. So how would you?
So in my car driving through there, and before we submitted this, there is all of the side streets that you can turn down. For instance, by Bar Taco, Edley's, on both sides of the street, they either have large parking lots in the front or around the back. We can always do drop-offs there, or just on any side street in a side parking job.
Does this require a motion?
If the commission takes no action, there's no change. If the commission chooses to deny or to approve, you could deny it, you could approve it, or you could take no action. No action is the same as a denial.
And you'd be on the commission when were these boundaries set?
They were established last October.
Okay, so it hasn't been.
Expanded last October.
Expanded
right?
last
Yeah.
October.
Okay.
Yeah.
which I think incorporated a lot of the East Nashville component and the Germantown component?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we stretched it out to Maxwell
Yeah.
House.
That's right. Yep. I don't think the requests are necessarily bad. I mean, maybe the Love Circle is not, but I think if we had a little bit more time to digest and to gather more information, we might be able to have more knowledge to make a better determination of whether it was appropriate or not.
I was also going to say too, in the 12 South area, if we were able to go down those roads, since they are narrow streets and it is always very congested, we could potentially eliminate the amounts of Uber and Lyft in that area by us coming in and being able to just quickly pick up the guests and take them to the next location. Obviously, those roads are very narrow, and the golf carts are not as big as vehicles, so that is also something to take into consideration.
Well, I guess if we take no action, then we can, at some future date, come back to it instead of just denying it and it has to be put back on the agenda.
Anytime the commission wants something like that on the agenda, at the end of a meeting during other business, request it. We can certainly gather information.
Okay. It's not a motion. I would just suggest that we take no action at this point in time.
So maybe you could move that we proceed to item 7 on the agenda.
Well, at this time, we're not going to take any action regarding your request, but I appreciate you bringing the matter to our attention. Certainly, we're not completely cut off to considering modifications, but right now, you've heard everyone from the commission. It appears we're not willing to change what we put in place as of last October. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got some complaint reviews also on our agenda. The first is a company complaint against American Melody Carriage. Mr. Fields.
They're coming out. The two issues that the hearing today is regarding insurance and the proper registration of the horse. As you'll recall, there was a complaint filed and some issues related to one of the horses. When we started looking, we realized the horse was not actually registered with us. We also recognized that her insurance company had failed to advise the commission that the insurance had expired on July the 1st. It was reinstated on July the 23rd or 4th. I've got the other communications available.
So they're currently good on?
The insurance is fine now, but it was not for about a 3-week period, including the time when the issue with the horse came up. So the issue of the horse is not before you, other than the issue, the horse was not properly registered with us and the insurance had been expired.
But you're saying the matter regarding the horse is not before us?
Well, there are 2 citations that have been issued by the Metro Health Department. They appear in General Sessions Court in September. Those may or may not end up before you, depending on the outcome of those hearings, as well as my continued conversation with the State Department of Agriculture.
Ms. Robinson, why did your insurance lapse?
Your Honor, I'm here on behalf of Ms. Robinson. I'm Richard Tennant, attorney here in
How you
town.
doing?
I'm good. I don't know how to do this properly, but if I could I act as an intermediary
That's
initially?
fine, and I'm not a judge or anything, so you call me Mr. Hernandez or Chairman or.
That's sort of my default. As Your Honor, it just comes out. I can't help it. And Mr. Hernandez, in this case, I think there were 2 issues. And in terms of the insurance, it did lapse. She was working, and she continues to work as a driver for Hat Creek, which is another company. And there was a time when, for cash flow reasons, she exclusively worked as a driver for Hat Creek. And it was her understanding that she was covered by Hat Creek's insurance. When Mr. Fields raised the issue with her that her license, which she was not working under, though would be in jeopardy if she didn't get insurance, she promptly made sure that she had valid insurance, and I think that that's clear that that insurance has been done. I think the second issue has to do with this horse Daisy Bell and getting Daisy Bell properly registered. Is that right, Mr. Fields?
Yes, that's correct.
And in terms of that, and Mr. Fields can correct me if I misstate anything, initially, while she was working for Hat Creek, she was approached by a family that wanted her to do a quinceañera party with a white horse. She has a white horse that is properly licensed by the name of Belle, not Daisy Bell. Belle was the horse that was to work on July 17th, which is this other day that these other matters come about. So while working for Hat Creek, she was going to come downtown with Belle, all properly licensed, and work Belle. Belle developed an abscess in her hoof, and it would have been inhumane to work Belle. She had just bought Daisy Bell. Now, and I apologize again, I didn't think about how many of you there all are. She had the proper records for Daisy Bell, but she hadn't submitted them, A. And B, they were from Texas, and they mirror, I believe, the records that she would have submitted to Mr. Fields in a proper way, except they were from Texas. And if I can just hand these up, maybe hand one to Mr. Fields, and I apologize.
Thank you.
And so it was an error. You know, she should have submitted these in a timely manner, and then found out that she needed to get them from the state of Tennessee and not from Texas. And she admits that she's in the wrong there. She didn't do that. And as soon as she found that out, Mr. Fields told her, and I believe and I hope, and my fingers are crossed as I say this, on July 22nd, the correct records, including the proper photographs of the horse Daisy Bell, were submitted, including the Coggins and rabies and et cetera tests that are required. So I think, but don't know, that as of July 22nd, and I think I saw in Mr. Fields' file right there, that she had submitted all of the necessary paperwork.
We have to work, an email was sent to me on July the 24th. That was actually, it was a forwarded email from Jessica Schultz, who is the Tennessee Equine Hospital. Ms. Robinson forwarded it to me that day, and it included all of the testing information and that we would need to register the horse.
And on this, I apologize, and maybe Mr. Fields can help me. Is there anything else she needs to do to make sure Daisy Bell's right with the world?
At this point, the only issue we continue to have with that is whatever might be going on with the State Department or Metro Health.
Okay. And that's how I'm involved, and I won't address that right here, right now.
So at the time that Ms. Robinson was performing these quinceañera services with Daisy Bell, was she working with Hat Creek, or was
she was working under Hat Creek? And on this, I apologize. Samuel Roberts is the owner of Hat Creek, and he had thought he was going to be here, and then he realized he had a doctor's appointment, and he is not here. Russell Bassett is here. He's another driver who did happen to be working with her on July 17th, and he can attest that they were all working for Hat Creek that night.
But the actual owner of Hat Creek is not here to verify that she was operating under his company.
No, he is not today, and I apologize for that. He thought he would be here, but...
Has he told you that she was working for him on July 17th?
Me directly, no.
Okay.
I'll say that. I have not talked to him directly.
Should the complaint be against Hat Creek?
Well, I think we've got it, then we could separate.
Yeah.
What we will do is, let me ask that, assuming that's true, what we'll do then is we would ask Hat Creek to appear. We would ask them that they're in violation of that particular section of the ordinance, as well as operating a horse without proper without the proper registration. We still have the issue, every company must keep insurance in place. The operation of any horse and carriage within the metro area without having enforced the public liability insurance as outlined in this section is hereby declared in violation of this article, subjecting the owner and certificate holder to any applicable penalties provided in the article. The insurance became valid later the same day the horse became licensed or permitted.
Two things, if I may. I do have, and I apologize, I just got these he had insurance, Mr.
Again, I'm separating that issue. The company, her company, has to have insurance whether it's operating or not. When you fail to renew your insurance, as we talked on the telephone, the company is in violation. Insurance is probably the most serious thing that this commission tries to keep up with, and that's a problem.
And on that, she doesn't want to get Mr. Roberts in any trouble. She just, said.
Unfortunately, he's on the record, and he'll be coming to the next meeting.
I'm not doing very well. In any case, not the way I want to get them. This was not a contumacious.
We'll also need Ms. Robinson there. We'll also ask Mr. Bassett to be here present to discuss it.
If I may, in terms of the thing before her, she did wrong, okay? She let the insurance lapse, and she's saying she did that. She got it promptly back in place. While she was working, she was under insurance. But obviously, as Mr. Fields has made clear, for her license, she had to have it at all times. And I don't think the public safety was ever jeopardized by her conduct. But, we obviously defer to your wisdom as to the appropriate sanction for the wrong that she did commit, however lacking in malice it may have been.
Well, since everybody's got to be back here next month, what about just bundling all up there and taking a look at it?
We certainly can. We could put both issues. We could put this issue. We could take the same issues. We'll separate them out, but there'll be two different hearings. A hearing for Hat Creek, dealing with a horse that was not properly permitted, and then we'll deal with insurance issues for American Melody. If you choose to do that.
And you were saying that Ms. Robinson would have to be here anyway next month. So.
Considering she's just told the commission she was operating a horse for another company that wasn't permitted, which I didn't know. I thought it was I thought you were out on your own because it was your tour. So, or we wouldn't have even dealt with that today.
I'd suggest just bundle it all up next month. Motion. I'd make a motion to defer it to next month and just clean it all up, put specifically which complaint goes to which. Be able to consider it all then.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Can I just put something on the record just so we don't sound like we've come up with it at the last moment at our next meeting? Ms. Robinson did want to note that she was working as a manager. Okay, so you have Samuel Roberts, her, and then people like Mr. Bassett. And we'll address the impact of this, but she certainly would take the moral and ethical responsibility for the registration issue with Daisy Bell as being her fault, working as his manager. That she just wants to be clear. She's not blaming him for that in any way, shape, or form. That wasn't his. He trusted her. We brought him up because he had insurance, but the issues with the registration, that's her problem. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a company complaint against Joyride. Mr. Fields.
A complaint was sent to the office on July the 31st from Mike Curl. I've asked Mr. Curl to be present. He is here to describe what he saw as a violation of the operating area for low-speed vehicles.
Mr. Curl.
Commissioners, good afternoon. My name is Mike Curl. I'm here today, as Mr. Fields said, because of my complaint against Joyride. On Sunday, July 30th, I was on the lot of the downtown Subaru dealership looking at cars. This is at the intersection of Broadway at 16th. While I was there, I saw a Joyride golf cart with several passengers sitting in the inside lane on Broadway headed west, obviously waiting for the traffic light to change before it could continue. I had seen the article on the Tennessean website 2 days earlier about the previous complaint against Joyride and the actions taken by this commission, so I knew this cart shouldn't have been where it was. I used my iPhone to take a quick picture to document what I saw. I believe you have copies of it. I tried to move to get to a better position to take a clearer picture, but at that point the light changed. So I watched as the golf cart proceeded west, taking the left fork to go southwest down Broadway, and I watched as they continued until they were out of sight. That's essentially it, unless you have any questions for me.
Do Do you remember what time of day it was?
It was mid-afternoon, 2 to 3 o'clock, somewhere in that time frame.
You may have already said, I think you gave the date, but what day of the week was it?
Sunday.
Or is it 14th on West End and Broadway? They're not supposed to
It's
be.
actually coming across the bridge, coming across the top of the interstate.
Okay.
The photo that we have in our papers it's a Xerox copy of your photograph, so it's hard to actually see. But were you able to determine if the passengers were wearing their seatbelts?
I cannot tell. I did bring a little bit clearer copies of it. Only have one, but I'd be glad to provide that for you.
Great.
Sure.
May I approach?
Yes.
This is the original iPhone picture, and just for clarity, when I zoomed in and cropped it to make it a little bit easier to see, you can see the 2 passengers in the back and at least one. There may have been a second one. It's hard to tell in the shadows. From that angle, I couldn't tell if the passengers were wearing seatbelts.
Mr. Pearl, are you at all employed in any of the transportation industry or anything?
No.
Got any lawsuits or anything against Joyride?
I'm sorry?
Got any lawsuits or any complaints other than this one against Joyride?
No. Not that I know of.
What caused you to show an interest to take a picture of them in the middle of the street there?
Just because that I was aware from having seen the Tennessean article that they were where they shouldn't have been. With it being this soon after the action taken by the commission at your last meeting, that just seemed to be pretty egregious, so I wanted to be sure to bring it to your attention.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Mendez your councilman?
I'm sorry?
Is Bob Mendez your council person?
No.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pearl.
Appreciate it.
Good afternoon.
I'd like to speak on that complaint.
If you'll just please introduce yourself.
Chris Sizemore from Joyride.
Thank you.
I'm the founder. I started this back in 2003, or 2013 for a reason, because taxis weren't doing the short rides. We've had 3 million rides since then, and we're going to do 600,000 this year. We have 0 loss claims on our insurance. So we operate as a taxi, and I think everybody else, we're the last mile of transportation for Nashville. We're going to do hopefully 1 million rides this year. So since the last meeting, we've taken as many steps as we possibly can, because safety is our number one issue. We spent over $7,000 since the last meeting and hundreds of man hours. We spent over $4,000 now on GPS alerts. Each vehicle now has a GPS device in it, and we have geo-fenced locations on any street, anywhere that they're not allowed to be. So if anybody crosses that line, automatically it sends a text message to every manager that's on duty. We've hired an AM and a PM manager that's on the roads at all times to look for these safety violations. We have a large-scale map that's in our driver room now. We've printed and installed permanent LSV boundary maps in each of the vehicles, like this one. And then we're having different ones printed, 25,000 other ones, because a lot of people are colorblind and they can't make out the map correctly. That's the number one complaint that we had. People called in to see if we had some of those. We posted on all social media accounts the areas we're allowed to operate, posted on all internal boards. Our web team has redesigned our website so everybody can know where our boundaries can be. Our application has our boundary in it, so if you're going to request a ride on the app, we won't even let you request a ride in that prospective area. Our new hiring procedures come with a 31-question test on where you're allowed to be. Our new hired drive around has a checklist with streets that you're not allowed to be on, and every driver has to go on that. Mandatory driver meeting with our group after our last meeting. It was mandatory, and the driver that's actually in the photo didn't come to the meeting, so his contract was not renewed, so we let him go as a driver. And since we've entered, and then we had a tour guide meeting to go over boundary reviews, and then we have a driver complaint form that all of our drivers need to fill out if they're complaining on, if they see a violation, it's a company violations, and then our new system's in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And, you know, they're subcontractors. We try to base our business just like a taxi does. And since the inception of these rules and regulations that we put together, we've had 2 drivers contracts that we didn't renew, and then we've fined 6 drivers. So we're trying to be as proactive as humanly possible in this. Then we started doing our research on taxi complaints. There's been 41 taxi complaints filed with this commission since 2003, and no one has ever shut down a taxi service. Yellow cab being number 1 with 9, Allied cab with 7, and then so on and so forth. So we're not looking for harsher punishments for the taxis. We just want to be fair. Our drivers, our independent contractors, we're trying our best here to do whatever we possibly can. And I think the GPS, geofencing, keeping them out, I mean, as soon as they're in that area, we let them go. So we don't want drivers that are in those prospective areas. And this driver just didn't happen to come to the meeting, so he would have been let go anyways.
So the commission met on July 27th, which is Thursday afternoon. And this happened 72 hours later.
Correct.
But you now have procedures in place and have invested in an alert system. And the procedure is if somebody violates that, then they're effectively terminating their own employment.
Correct.
Even though they're not technically employed.
Correct.
But they're terminating their agreement by crossing that boundary.
Correct.
And you set that up right after this, so.
We had to wait till Monday before we could even get with the developers on you know, the man hours that went into redeveloping our application, the geofencing. And so we're working on technology now that has video screens inside the vehicle that we can monitor if a seatbelt isn't plugged in. We're trying to be proactive as much as we possibly can. That's the reason whenever I started Joyride, we wanted to regulate ourselves, and I wrote the regulations and gave them to Billy for y'all to look at, because we want to regulate our industry. We want to be as safe as humanly possible. I mean, we spend $35,000 a month on insurance right now. And, you know, us being shut down 10 days, the ramifications for that, people are going to lose their homes, their children, their, you know, most of our drivers are day to day, so they need that money, and it makes me feel worse that, and Maria too, the girl that was out of bounds, you know, she came to this meeting when she was bedridden. She's got autoimmune disease, lupus, and she couldn't afford her treatments. So she felt bad whenever you shut down a whole company with 80-something drivers just here in Nashville. It's because of her problem. So she got out of bed to come to that meeting, the last meeting.
When did you find out about this complaint?
This complaint? Bob Mendez sent it to me as soon as it happened.
This one here?
He just sent a photo. I think he sent a photo of that. I've been in communications with Mr. Mendez trying to get...
To answer my question, the complaint brought by Mr. Curl, when did you learn of that?
Oh, not too long ago, I guess, when Billy sent it.
We would have sent it. What we try to do is send complaints out as quickly as we can so they have opportunity to prepare.
Okay. Did you install these GPS and other proactive precautions before or after you got the complaint from Mr. Curl?
They were the following week after this happened.
After this?
Yeah.
All right.
This was 72 hours later, so
Yeah.
that was the weekend. We had a mandatory meeting as soon as we left this meeting.
No,
we had a
I'm
mandatory-
wanting to know all these fine things that you did, whether they were installed after you learned that Mr. Curl had brought another complaint against Joyride, or were they in place before he brought that complaint?
The GPSs were in place before. The geofencing, we did, I guess we started on doing it after, well, I didn't even know about the complaint, so I guess we started the geofencing before the complaint.
That's
We knew
what
about
I
the
want to
complaint.
know, because I'm
Oh, okay.
assuming at your company, when you found out that just 72 hours after we closed you down for 10 days, you got another complaint of someone on the same road.
Yes.
That had to be quite a shocker at the corporation.
Yes, and then
I want to know whether you started putting these things into effect after you got the second complaint, or whether you had already done it after the first complaint.
we started putting them in place right after the meeting. We tried to work on that. We tried to get our developers working on it. So it was before we
you
knew
got
about
notice
this
of
complaint.
second complaint.
Yes, it was before we knew about
Now,
the second complaint.
These GPS devices and everything that will tell you when someone goes out of the boundary, how do you regulate to make sure people stay off prohibited roads that are inside the boundary?
Well, yes, geofencing is, so what happens is like West End, we drew a geofence around this little block since we're allowed to cross. If they enter into that area, it notifies, and so on and so forth. If I showed you a map, it's blotted all over the place.
How did it not work this time?
We didn't have geofencing in place.
At the time, 72 hours later?
Correct.
Okay, that makes
You'd
sense.
already started working on it, it just wasn't in place.
Correct, correct. Yeah, and this driver...
What's the name of this driver?
I don't... Do you know his name? Rick Hummer.
I'm sorry, what was the name?
Rick Hummer.
Is he working with somebody else now?
I have no idea.
Okay.
And then our second driver, we to telling ourselves somebody else went out of bounds too, that same day, and we did the same thing. We let them go too.
Okay.
Mr. Sasmore, I'm glad to hear that you've put all these processes and procedures in place to help ensure that your carts are stay within the bounds which they're permitted to drive. You know, we thought long and hard last month on an appropriate penalty for the prior complaint that we found to be in proper order. And if the processes and procedures that you now have in place had been in place months ago, we probably wouldn't have ever had that complaint, and you wouldn't be dealing with the situation that you're dealing with right now. So
that's what we're hoping for moving forward.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is we understand the impact that it's happening from your 10-day suspension that starts on Monday. We definitely get that. But at least I don't feel responsible for your 10-day suspension.
Correct.
And I don't appreciate, you know, your suggestion that we have overreacted or done something extraordinary by our decision to suspend Joyride for 10 days. I mean, it was an obvious violation of our rules, and I know Mr. Fields and his personnel have repeatedly over the last several months given you warnings after Mr. Fields learned informally about violations. You know, no complaint had really been formally brought before us, but there were multiple opportunities before these last few weeks for your company to implement these kinds of procedures, which sound fantastic. The geofencing sounds like a great way for you to monitor your drivers and making sure that they're not driving outside the zones, and being able to reach those drivers immediately to say, hey, get back in the zone if they're out.
It was the only way that we could police that, and it's become perfect. I mean, it's a perfect system in our book on knowing which drivers are in and out of bounds and things like that. So, you know, beforehand, you know, we didn't get any complaints. There was no complaints filed with us about being on those roads, so I technically wasn't aware of it at times. And whenever Billy Fields, when they do let us know that somebody saw a cart out, most of the complaints, they didn't know whose cart it was. So this was our first complaint that I knew about. And we're trying to alleviate that as much as we possibly can.
Anyone else have questions for Mr. Sizemore? Thank you.
I'd just like to say I appreciate Mr. Curl's approach to this, and appreciate Mr. Sizemore's proactive approach to rectifying the situation going forward.
And if anybody else has any recommendations, other recommendations, we're all for it, definitely. No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
It makes it a little awkward because they're on probation for a violation, and we have another violation. No matter what the steps have been taken, I think part of the issue is that people didn't necessarily know how to make formal complaints, and I wonder how many more we're going to start seeing in the future now that that door's been opened. And not all Joyride. I'm not totally blaming your company, but I can just say, as someone who works downtown every day, I see it from all golf cart companies, all of them, turning around in the middle of the street, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, I don't know what maneuver we should, or what move we should have here in terms of any future sanctions, but this has been going on for a while. And I think all companies had the opportunity to clean it up, and it's just now coming back to start to bite some of you. That's all I have to say.
I recall we first have to make a finding whether it's been a violation, and then we can discuss what sanctions. Is that correct? What we did
Yes,
this
sir.
last. I will make a motion that there's proof that Joyride has been in violation of driving on a prohibited street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes.
That there was a violation by being on a prohibited street.
Given the circumstances and the proactive approach and the systems that have been installed by Joyride, and considering that they will continue to be on probation for a period of 1 year, I would move that we suspend their license for 10 days concurrent with the current suspension. Is that possible?
Yes.
We have found a violation. They are on probation. There's no other way around it. But they have acted in a responsible manner. And if it is concurrent and not consecutive, I think that they understand the seriousness of it, but it does not further punish them, and keeps them on the same period of probation. Long explanation to a short motion.
He's talking about the
Same 10 days.
Same 10 days. I saw your face, so it's the same 10 days you're already on.
So what in effect it would do is, if we were working on a strike system, what it would amount to is your first one, your second one, so it would be 2, and the second one coming under probation. So
Yeah, I'll second the motion that was just made.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I just want to make one more comment, Chris. You have to start understanding that our responsibility has nothing to do with how much money you make or what other people do. It's public safety. That's what we're here to do. So you bringing up that other subject is immaterial to what we have to consider up here. So please, if we go through it again, don't go down that path, because it doesn't matter. Okay, thank you.
Next item on our agenda is a company complaint against the country music crawler. Mr. Fields.
I'm sorry. We had a complaint sent to us on August the 7th regarding Country Music Crawler operating two bikes on the street. The complaint was filed by, they're here, so.
Yeah, so I'm Valerie Aridia. Again, I'm representing Sprocket Rocket, and I'm here with
Jeremy Wist.
So we just wanted to bring it to your attention that the Country Music Crawler has been operating two bikes with one permit. They were obviously just right before you, not too long ago, asking for some additional permits, and he said that they do actually have one bike on site ready to go, but they're actually currently using it. Sprocket Rocket and Pedal Tavern have taken all the necessary requirements that we needed to obtain our permits, and we've obtained them, and we've maintained them, and we've followed the rules and regulations put in line. And unfortunately, it's companies like the Country Music Crawler that can affect all of us and ruin it for us. So we just wanted to bring it to your attention. We have a statement that Jeremy's actually going to read because he witnessed this, and we have some pictures, timeline for you so you can see that there is a permitted bike and a non-permitted bike, and I have labeled them for you. So I'll go ahead and give these.
Very good.
All right, so over the past couple months, I personally have seen both of these bikes from Country Music Crawler, both permitted and non-permitted, on the streets of Nashville at different times. While I was actually driving one of our Sprocket Rocket bikes on Saturday, August 5th, around 5 p.m., I witnessed the permitted bike turn right onto First Avenue from Broadway. I was behind it on Broadway when I then continued into the Riverfront roundabout, turned left onto First Avenue, and followed behind its path as the Country Music Crawler. So as I was passing under the pedestrian bridge on First Avenue, I could see to my right that the permitted bike with its passengers was now pulling up behind the non-permitted bike that was sitting there vacant. This was at their pickup and drop-off location that they advertise on their website as 2nd Avenue at Headquarters the Arcade across from Joe's Crab Shack, 114 2nd Avenue South. On my next ride, which was the same day, approximately 6:30 p.m., I observed the non-permitted bike out on the road, but not the permitted bike. So you guys will see on the second page that we handed to you a timeline explaining all of the following pictures after that. So number one, on Friday, August 4th, 2017 at 1:47, we have a photo of the non-permitted bike coming down 4th Avenue headed south with passengers on it. Picture number two is the permitted bike that same day at 8:53 p.m. There are no passengers on this at the time, but it is still down on the road. The next picture, picture number three, is from Saturday morning at 10:57 a.m. It is a picture of the non-permitted bike on 3rd Avenue heading down towards Broadway with passengers on it. 5:04, which is on picture 4, 5:04 p.m. Both bikes are sitting on 2nd Avenue together at their pickup and drop-off location. If you flip to the next page, picture 5A, it is a much larger picture of that so that you can see the two bikes sitting there together. The next one, 5B, is a picture from Google Maps of their pickup and drop-off location per their website, which is 2nd Avenue under the pedestrian bridge. And then the next page is where it actually, on their website, defines where their pickup and drop-off location is downtown. And then the last photo is photo number 6, taken the same day, 5:27 p.m. Their permitted bike is on the road again with passengers after their non-permitted bike was just seen with passengers on it as well. So
where's the picture of the non-permitted bike passengers seen moments before?
That was the morning of the 5th at 10:57 a.m. their second bike their non-permitted bike is seen on 3rd Avenue. So it's the exact same day, 2 different bikes with 1 permit.
About 6 hours apart.
Correct, but
Okay.
our point to pointing this out to you is that they are using multiple bikes while on a single permit, even after their suspension over the exact same issue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fields, would you, before we hear from Mr. Zitola, would you read to us the ordinance regarding pedal taverns having a permit? And presumably, because we've addressed this issue before, companies not allowed to move their permit from a vehicle to vehicle.
Correct. The commission has approved a single permit to operate a single bike. A company could have 2 bikes, but they cannot operate them both at the same time with passengers. So the violation would be probably 675-290, vehicle permit required. Each pedal carriage or pedicab must have a permit issued by the MTLC. The permit will identify each pedal carriage and pedicab by a unique number in accordance with the rules. Permits are not transferable to other pedal carriages or pedicabs or other certificate holders. So again, a company can have 2, but you can't operate except what, for instance, one of the other companies has 12 bikes and can operate 10, but they can't operate 12. They can operate any one of the 12s as long as they're on file with us and we have insurance and so forth, but they can only go up to their number. In this case, they can only do the 1.
They can only have 1 bike operating, but they can swap them back and forth?
As long as they're properly, as long as we have them on file in at the office.
Are these 2 bikes on file at your office?
That's what I was just double checking. Yes, I was reasonably sure that after the last situation, we went ahead and they came in and issued, actually sticker 43 is their unique number for this particular vehicle.
So just to be clear, they are allowed to have 2 bikes with 1 permit, 1 being a backup bike.
Correct.
And if that initial bike is inoperable, they can then use the backup bike. So the issue is both the bikes cannot have passengers at the same time.
Correct. They can't pass on the street or be on the street with passengers at the same time.
And that's in fact what happened in both is just we had a flat tire on one where we swapped out the bike, we brought 1 bike down, we moved the passenger from 1 bike to the other, drove the other one immediately off on the 4th. On the 5th, we had a motor situation where we had to tow it off. So the motor flywheel broke. We brought back another bike now, and we swapped out the passengers again. We brought it back for repairs, and then at the evening, we brought the repaired bike, which is our primary one, back down. And then you can even see the pictures that with the 2 bikes together. There's 1 totally empty bike. Those people, we moved those people onto the new bike that we just had repaired. I was even down on site at the time, and then the empty bike then drove back to the thing. At no time did we have any passengers on both bikes. At no time.
Do you have any proof of the repairs?
I've got my mechanic here who he had on the 5th the
I've got a picture of me tearing apart the motor assist where we had pulled it back on the 5th.
If you'll introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is.
My name's James Hunley. I'm the mechanic for the Country Music Crawler.
Yeah, but
And you can even see the pictures. The driver in most of those pictures is the same driver. We actually just took the whole driver and passengers, put them on the other bike, and my mechanic, and then they.
I had it fixed in 3 hours, and then next shift come around, drove it down, grabbed the second bike that we use as a backup, drove it back up to the office and parked it.
We fully understand.
Mr. Pistola, would you come here a second?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at this picture here, which is most important to me, because there's an empty bike here somewhat and a full bike here. This lady standing here, what is her role?
She was a server. She's pulling. We were clearing this bike. That's the matter of fact. Either the passengers are moving off this bike, and we're putting them on this now repaired bike.
And the
that
time
just
on that
pulled up.
repair is like.
This bike's one. This is our backup bike. Went, took it, and went right back to the garage.
This server,
Yes.
did she move over to that
Oh, yeah,
bike?
yes. She's getting bursted and all that stuff. They're carrying their stuff. They're in the process. This picture's taken right
Is
in
that
the
what that
process.
shows?
Yeah,
They're
that was
in
right
the process of moving?
I'm standing right there like that. And then there's also our driver.
Is that you?
That's me. That's mine.
Okay.
The big muscles.
Don't get too cute today. All right.
But that's exactly what happened. Both days.
And in those pictures, we had the same driver on each bike.
Well, I can't.
Where we swapped out the same day from the Friday to the Saturday.
I'm not sure I can identify who's the driver, but I sure identify.
It's Otis. Like Mr. Field sees us down there all the time. He knows that we fully understand what our regulations is. We're not in any way means trying to put. We did not have two vehicles operating with passengers at the same time down there.
Well, what about this? What was it, August 5th, where you're seen with passengers in one bike at 10 in the morning, and then again at 5 o'clock in the other bike?
That was in the time we were doing the repairs and all that. That was the other bike moving. That's where you see the driver. It's still the same driver in both those pictures on the different bikes.
There was a 4-hour time lapse of the backup bike coming down, doing a tour, and then I repaired the country music crawler, the red bike, and then brought it down the next shift.
I just want to make sure you're explaining that particular day.
This is a picture of the bike that you repair in the middle of the day.
Yes.
It's ready to go. How long did it take to finish the repair?
About 4 hours.
Okay.
And we got it back in time for that picture.
Thank you.
Before he scrolls.
And this is the hassle when you only have one permit. It's kind of the hassle we have to work under.
Just so I'm clear, which bike was out of commission here? Was it this bike that went out of commission?
This is the one that started the day. It went out of commission.
And you're moving everyone over here.
We brought this one down. The only picture of us bringing that one down.
This was taken when we were bringing, after the repairs were brought down, they were swapping everything back onto the old bike.
This one started the day. This one worked during the day after we swapped it out. And now at the midday, after we got this one repaired, we're bringing it back and swapping it back out.
Okay.
We believe we acted within the confines of our permit. And
We don't really have pictures
Thank
of
you.
two bikes being operated at once.
No, not with people on them.
Right.
Would you like to rebut with any additional information?
Mr. Chairman, Sean Henry, representing Sprocket Rocket. Don't have any comment on the evidence that you've presented there, but just I heard what Mr. Fields read to you. Each pedal carriage must have a permit issued by the MTLC, and the permit will identify each pedal carriage by unique number. I don't see anywhere in the rules that there's permission or authority to have a backup bike without a permit number, and then the event you get a flat tire, you bring the new bike out and you take the number off of one and you put the number on the other. To me, I just think that's a slippery slope. How many bikes do you have as backup? And I don't even know how you enforce that or regulate that. I think the language is clear in your rules. Each bike has to have a permit. And just earlier on this agenda, they applied for a new permit. So the very thing they asked for earlier in this agenda was to have a permit for one of their other bikes. So we just want to point that out. I don't see that a backup bike is authorized. Every bike must have a permit. Thank you.
Mr. Fields, I know that was my question that I had asked you before we heard Mr. Tola.
Mr. Heener actually presents an interesting question. Wish it wasn't presented on live television. About the commission has approved the country music crawler for a certificate of convenience and necessity to operate a bike. Historically, we treated this very much like we do the horse carriages. We allow the company to have multiple carriages in case something does break, because there are a lot of moving parts. We have not sought bringing them all to the commission for its approval, since they all aren't operating at the same time. But I think what he's saying is, in order to do it according to the ordinance, they would all have to be permitted by this commission, even if they were a backup bike.
But the backup bikes are still regulated, they're still inspected?
They would have to have an inspection. They would be subject to inspection. They would have to have a unique number. They have to be on their insurance, which is what that bike it does now.
And that was the problem last time.
The last time it was a bike that's what got them to the probation issue was it got out on the street before we had any information, and it persisted. But I understand the question, and it's certainly something that we'll take up with legal, and because we have not had that.
And then we have the issue with Nashville Pedal Tavern, which has 10 permits but 12 bikes.
Correct.
And all 12 of those bikes, your office is aware of them, your office has the information on them, your office has the insurance on them.
But if the commission, but again, to Mr. Henry's point, if the commission has to physically approve each bike, then there may need to be some appropriate language in the ordinance that would speak to that, potentially. I don't know.
I just think a strict reading of the ordinance is pretty clear that they shouldn't be transferable. I don't know what the practice has been, but I don't know. We may be able to strengthen the clause, but the non-transferable part to me seems to be clear that each bike would need a number.
And again, we would issue a number, but again, the issue of it's a permit transfer from bike to bike, I think is what Ms. Ladd's saying, and I understand that. And we may need to address that by ordinance or by rule to at least deal with what do we do in circumstances like that.
My concern is the last time we met to review the complaint on Country Music Crawler, I'd have to check the minutes to be sure, but I think we conveyed to them that they could move the number from bike to bike and be within the ordinance as long as they didn't have 2 bikes on the road with passengers.
I know it was part of the discussion. The minutes don't reflect it, but it very well could have been a part of the hearing.
So I can understand why Country Music Crawler would have believed that they were in compliance when they were bringing a backup bike down and only having passengers on one at a time.
If only one was in operation at any given time on the streets, then I think they would have at least met what the commission had discussed at the May meeting when the probationary period.
Does Sprocket Rockets have more than 9 pedal taverns?
All of which have their permit.
Correct.
But also, if you think about it from a necessity viewpoint, if we've decided that there is one, if you have decided that there is one that's necessary, and he takes one off to replace it by another, then it's a net.
Correct.
Balances itself off. Yeah.
Which I think is why we kind of we find ourselves where we are right now, where it's a logical conclusion to say, yeah, you can have a backup bike as long as it's not operating at the same time your main bike is.
Correct.
And approved by, or all the insurance and everything's approved by the director. Yeah.
And I think that was implied in the May meeting.
The backup bike is inspected and insured. And there's no indication that there were 2 bikes operating at the same time with passengers.
Well, we weren't present for the complaint. Again, I can only defer back to the complainants, because that's the reason we brought it to you directly. When we have a complaint such as this, we bring it in.
From the photos, it doesn't appear that, it appears that only one was ever occupied. Right.
You know, obviously, Sprocket Rockets, they make a good point about, a strict reading of the rule. Obviously, it makes Mr. Field's job and his office easier to enforce the rules, because it is, unless you have the strict proof of 2 bikes operating at the same time, it's hard to know, well, did they have the other one out when you see one? But we as a commission and Mr. Field's office can't certainly can't have eyes and ears in every location, and certainly rely upon the companies who are operating to, know that they need to follow the rules. And I certainly appreciate when companies bring violations to our attention, because it's important that you guys hold each other accountable and make sure you follow those ordinances. Mr. Fields, I think we do need to, clear up the language
We can do that.
in that rule. I don't know if we need to decide which way we want to go, a strict reading and making it clear that we're applying a strict reading, or we're going to change the ordinance to where we can, where it's expressed that a company can have a backup vehicle if they choose to invest those dollars and have that kind of infrastructure in place if they ever need it.
The pedal carriages are an expensive proposition, and when they do invest, again, and that's the reason you see people who have them, they exist and they'd like to operate them, as the applications earlier today showed. I think it is, again, it's an interesting question Mr. Henry has put to us today, and because he is very thorough in his job. I think what I'd like to do is work with Metro Legal, and we'll bring back some language. We'll do our best to do it in September. Right now, we're working on the language from last month in the fire department, in the record departments, as well as some safety rules coming for the other passenger vehicles for hire. But we will move as quickly as we can to bring recommendations on what it would probably be. Because again, I think the intent is for a company to be able to back itself up. If something breaks down, you want them to be able to continue to operate there. But there is the issue of getting them both on the street at the same time. And I didn't ask the question. I would have asked the folks that filed it: did they physically see passengers on both bikes at the same time in that same time period? I know the pictures were there, but I didn't ask. I didn't know if they had evidence, either verbal or anything else.
Well, before we close the proof here, is there anything else that anyone else would like to add and put in the record? All right. Commissioners?
I don't believe we need a motion if we're not going to take any action against them, do we?
Well, I think we need to decide whether or not there was a violation or not. It could be as simple as there wasn't, based on our interpretation of the regulation, there wasn't sufficient proof, or however you want to rule on the interpretation of the regulation.
Well, I'll make a motion that there has not been a violation, and I'm motivated in that direction because I remember sitting right here when Country Music Crawler was in front of us, and we were explaining to them that they can have 2 vehicles, but they can only have one on the road with passengers at a time, and expressly told them that we understood the need for backup. So based on those statements by the commission, I don't think there can be found a violation by them today. I do look forward to reviewing 675-920 sometime as to the specific language.
I think I second that.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Fields, you said something earlier while we were discussing the other items on our agenda. How does the Transportation Licensing Commission go about requesting additional funding for your office in terms of having and then you tell me what the greatest needs are, but obviously the number of vehicles that we are overseeing and regulating has increased significantly over the years, at least at the time I've been on the commission.
If the commission were to want to make a recommendation, it would be a recommendation to the mayor that we'd put together a proposal and actually submit it through the Department of Public Works as a request from the Department of Public Works. So the commission would make the request, it would be directed to the Director of Public Works, and then at that point, then would be directed to the mayor. So we certainly could discuss and make some recommendations about what may make sense. We've certainly had a lot of conversations with the police, with traffic and parking, with other metro agencies about how best to do what we do and how can we do it even better.
Next, we've got a complaint against 2 cruising drivers. I don't know if I have a note here that complaint has been postponed to next month.
Would the first who filed the complaint would like to postpone that to next month?
Next item on our agenda is under other vehicles for hire. We've got some driver applications. The first is Angelo Buford.
Mr. Chair, legal suggests that we make a motion to defer it to make a motion that the commission take formal action to postpone this to next month.
Move deferral to the September meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And that was with respect to the
2 cruising.
The 2 cruising, yeah, correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Buford?
Angelo Buford?
Mr. Fields?
In making his application, Mr. Buford has applied to be another passenger vehicle driver for hire. Mr. Buford has an extensive record, again, one which you have asked me to bring to you, so we have brought it before you. It did not appear there were any automatic disqualifiers, just volume.
First page, yours is completed mandatory training. Selected no. Has that been?
Quite often, they will go to work for the company, then they do the mandatory training when they go.
So that's not it?
Yeah.
Mr. Buford, I'm going to assume that these 2 gentlemen here are with the company. Okay. I'm going to speak to him first, but I'm.
And I could not find that he was being deceptive, just.
No. And the last thing that you found was 2004? I think that's what I have listed.
We'll go back through it again.
That's what I show on them.
2004 is what I believe.
Yeah. You want to speak to it? I mean, it's been 13 years, so I want to give you the opportunity to tell us what's changed in your life.
A great deal has changed in my life, sir. I just no longer practice the behavior that I used to practice. I just live as a upstanding citizen. Right now, I'm currently just trying to be a solid provider for my wife and also my grandchildren, and just make sure that they also follow a positive lifestyle. So I'm just here just trying to make better choices, better decisions, and be a productive member of society.
And since 2004, you have essentially stayed out of trouble?
I haven't been in any trouble since then, sir.
Okay.
And you're under no probation currently or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm dealing with the probation right now, yes.
Would have been off that. It was the issue is placed on probation.
Yeah. How much longer on probation? Do you know?
Well, that can be up to decision. It's up to the United States government.
No, I understand. And obviously no violations.
There's no problems at all right now.
Right. Gentlemen, anything you want to say on Mr. Buford's behalf?
Well, my name's Dion. He's a happy everybody. I'm the owner of street tread limo, and I work with a few hotels in my chauffeur business, and I've been seeing this guy for several months. He's a very hard worker. He pretty much has been working at like these two jobs around the area that I work in. I see him day in and day out. I've been seeing him for several months before we actually had a conversation. And I mean, I tell you, I follow my judgment. I think that he's a really great guy. I mean, from the people that I see at the hotels that I deal with that actually work with him have nothing to say but good things. So, I mean, I really have a good feeling about Harvey here. And like I said, I've known him now for about maybe 4 months or so.
Okay.
Or Angelo. This is Harvey back here. Sorry. My mistake.
So under supervision for 13 years and no issues.
No issues.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you
Good
very
luck,
much.
sir.
Thank you.
Stay out of trouble.
Congratulations. Next, we have an application for Harvey Fluker. Good afternoon.
In making his application, Mr. Fluker failed to list a 1979 assault charge. He did have a pretty good record, but extensive record, but he appears to have listed everything he needed to accept that.
I'm assuming you're going to tell me a similar story.
Oh, I just don't drink no more. I remember that
Well,
incident.
that's a very honest scenario.
You've listed some traffic violations here too. On January 1st, 2016, you were cited for unsafe operation. Is that of a car or something else?
Past the policeman on a 4-lane. I had two police cars, an open lane here, and traffic moving on this side. And I was really tired. I was coming from Columbia. And I saw him get in his car, traffic's backed up, and I went around it. And I couldn't even remember it after I'd done it because we talked and stuff. And so then I remembered, you got to pass on the right side no matter what. So I'm very skeptical about passing on any side of a vehicle now since that happened. That was in Brentwood.
Okay.
Was that the last time you had a traffic citation? You've got kind of clumped here other tickets over a 40-something year period.
I can't remember them. That's just it. I remember my first DUI was in '82, I believe. And during the process of going back for a hearing, I believe I got a suspension, driving after suspension, revocation or something, but I don't know what year it was, what it was, or any of that. I barely know what a misdemeanor or a felony is. I really don't.
He failed it.
Failed. There was a 79 assault charge.
That was 38 years ago.
Yes. He digs deep.
Bring the information you required me to bring.
Sounds like you've done your research, and understand we have street trade representatives still here.
Yes, sir.
And there's nothing that precludes issuing a license. I'd move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Next, we have Edward Ludwig Jr.
Mr. Ludwig applied to work for Park and Fly as another passenger vehicle for hire driver. He failed to disclose some of the charges that he had against him.
somebody from Park and Fly here on your behalf?
No. I have the note here, it says denied 7/21/17. Did you apply previously?
Oh, there was a date I actually did it in the office. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That was just the date that I denied, and it is referred to you then.
It was denied solely on disclosure?
Yeah, what it amounts to, back in the 80s, he had several charges that in 81, 82, that he just failed to disclose. And by failing to disclose, it's automatically here to see you.
Right now, my bigger issue is nobody's here from Park and Fly.
We do not issue permits unless the company has to accept them and verify to us before we let them go to work.
Okay.
What were the charges in 81 and 82?
I don't even remember. It's been so long ago.
October 23rd, 1980, he was charged with a robbery that would have been in Buffalo, New York, I think. Did you live in Buffalo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There was an assault, 3rd degree. It may have been pled down to that in that same offense. Out-of-state records are more challenging for us. I believe he received a probation for that. It appeared to be in about a 10-year period. The 80s were not.
They were not kind to him.
You had some things in the 80s. I'm not saying any.
Well, that's when I was young and dumb and hanging around with the wrong crowd, you know. I've changed my life since then after 2 daughters, 5 grandkids, great-grandkid.
I'd make a motion for approval, remanded to Park and Fly.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Next, we have under wrecker and towing services, number of driver applications. The first is Frank Palmer.
Mr. Palmer? Mr. Palmer has applied to be a wrecker driver. If you, he has an extensive record that I felt like you needed to review.
And this is with Southside?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I got
So,
zero.
this stuff's very recent, isn't it, Mr. Fields?
His charges, his last set of charges was December of 2016. He had several charges that day. He ended up, the aggravated assault was dismissed. It appears that he was guilty of evading arrest, motor vehicle, and risk of injury, that he was found guilty of that. The other assault was dismissed with cause. So he had some convictions.
There's a lot of stuff in 16 and
Yeah, that in
14,
yeah, looks
and 13 and 12 and 11.
Public intoxication on the 5th of January 5th, 16.
Say October of 16. There are a couple.
Is there any non-consent?
That's what I said.
Yes, they do not consent.
Somebody here from Southside?
No, there isn't, but I talked with Michael from Brown's Torn in Madison.
I'm sorry, excuse me, that is true. I apologize for that. That he, Browns did call, Gary Brown, Browns, and it is an emergency record company, called from, and said that he would hire him for weekends if the commission approved it.
Are they non-consent?
They're emergency, so they, by having an emergency, they do
Right,
not consent.
Right.
Is it Gary Brown called?
Yes. It was Gary, the manager called, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Did I understand you to say this hire was just for weekends?
Sometimes record companies will hire for specific times. That's what was communicated to us. Doesn't mean he couldn't work other days. It just means he would hire him as an additional driver.
Yeah, he would be remanded to that company, so. And you understand that, right? If we give you a license, it's only that company that you can work for. Okay. I think the reason everybody's so quiet is because there's a lot of fairly recent stuff on here. But there was no failure to disclose. He listed everything that.
As best I can tell, again,
Okay.
it's a lot when you're comparing them side by side, but it appears that he made a lot of disclosures.
None of those disclosures disqualified him, I'm assuming.
Not that I could tell from ferreting through the permit, through the application.
Mr. Palmer, what was the result of the charge for interference with an emergency call, the assault and the domestic bodily injury?
Run that by me again.
What was the result of that charge? Was that?
Oh, they I think they dismissed no, they gave me time served. But I appealed it. I appealed it, and they tried to give me probation. I just got out 10 years. You know what I'm saying? And I couldn't do no more probation, so I just appealed it, and they gave me time served.
What were the facts and circumstances for that arrest in December last year?
Oh, me and my girlfriend had an altercation, and one thing led to another, and she put her hands on me, and my reflexes retaliated. You know what I'm saying? And we got into it, and she was trying to call the police, and I took the phone and threw it to the side, and I left. She also stated at court that she did initiate everything. She was the one that started, and I just, reflexes, like I said, retaliate.
So the assault was dismissed.
Yes.
The interference with the 911 call, which is when you took the phone and removed it took it away from her, those were also dismissed. Were you charged with vandalism the same day?
Yeah.
Okay. And those were, it looks like you paid court costs on that, but they dismissed them on court costs?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fields, I forgot what company you told me.
It's going to work for
Browns.
Browns.
And if you can restrict him to Browns, he would not be able to drive for anyone else.
Yep.
Can you restrict them to only consent tows?
I'm sorry?
Can we restrict them to only consent tows?
We could,
Can we at least request it?
we certainly could, we could advise the emergency company that operates under your authority to say that's the only calls we would allow him to operate would be emergency calls and an owner request calls. We've never done it, doesn't mean we can, I don't think.
This seems to be so much on here that's so very recent.
It,
15, 16, 17.
The challenge would be monitoring, something like that, and there are charges.
I think that I understand it'd be hard to monitor, but if we let Browns know that we're restricting him to only consent customer requested and emergency calls, that I feel confident that they would oblige that request and restriction.
We worked with Mr. Brown a long time. I suspect he will follow the guidance of the commission.
Tom, do you have any more questions?
Don't think so.
All right.
Do we need to put a time limit if we make a motion like that, like 12 months? To have that
Normally, unless you say otherwise, we take it that you mean for a year, not forever. But unless they say, there have been times we said, whenever there's a move, they have to come back in front of the commission. So it's entirely up to you.
I would make a motion that we approve with remanded to Browns with a stipulation that he only be allowed to work customer calls and emergency, and that if there is a move, he needs to come back before us.
And that restriction's for 12 months? Yeah.
Well, the restriction is if there's a move. anywhere.
Well, I meant if he stayed at Brown's and 12 months go by, is he still restricted to emergency
I
calls?
made it, yes.
He says restricted. If when they specific,
Mine is any move, anytime.
yeah, that's the way I would interpret that. Most of the motions aren't exactly like that, but I would interpret it that way.
No, but my inquiry is slightly different. So
Oh.
Mr. Palmer stays at Brown's,
Right.
and it's month 13.
If he wants to go somewhere else, he would have to come back in here.
No, my question is, would he be able to then do non-consent towing?
Oh, that's, I would say no, based on this motion. We could certainly review his permit in 12 months.
Yes, and that would be more of a question with Brown's at that point, if he still is working for them.
We could do that. If you added that, with review.
Do I have to repeat the whole thing?
No,
Because I forgot.
Well, the chair rules on that, I don't.
No, that's fine. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So, Mr. Palmer, we're granting you a permit for granting your application.
Okay.
But it is restricted to Browns, and if you want to leave Browns, you'd have to come back before us for another approval.
Okay.
But also, you're restricted in which you cannot perform non-consent tows. So,
I got a question. What does that mean, non-consent?
like if Browns contracts with the city or with business establishments to do towing without consent of the owner of the vehicle,
Right.
you would not be allowed to perform those types of services. But you would be able to answer customer-specific requests for Brown's towing.
Okay.
Or
Emergency.
if Brown's was part of an they're an emergency wrecker service, so they have a zone that they operate here in Davidson County, and you would be able to respond to calls from the police in those zones.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do I go down to out the Trinity Lane office and pay the $20?
Yes.
That's where I go. All right,
Yes.
thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let the record show that I did not vote in the affirmative. And if
Oh,
asked,
I apologize. I did not ask for nays.
nay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Next, we have an application from Jesse Pecora.
In making his application, Mr. Pecora failed to list a 2010 domestic assault, 2008 fugitive from justice, a 2004 domestic assault, and a 97 auto burglary.
The reason, since one of them is not that long ago, is there a reason that they didn't get listed?
The reason was that they were all dismissed, those ones that he was speaking of.
I understand, but
I wasn't aware that I needed to put those.
Yes.
That's the only reason.
Need a bigger sign, Billy. I know you got it on there.
I'm sorry, Mr. Right above it. It's as big right here.
It's my fault. It's my fault.
He admits it. I mean, I'll blow it up
I'm
again.
teasing.
Anybody
I'll blow it
anybody
up
from
again.
JD's here by chance?
There's a study, and I've learned this as a practitioner, as a lawyer, but there is a study that's been proven that all caps is more difficult to read than traditional font letterings with just capitalizing the first of the sentence.
We'll start revising permit applications.
Did the study also consider if you highlighted it?
Yeah, put it in red.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to visit with you and go through that study before I start on this again.
All right, I asked the gentleman from JD's Towing.
Yes. My name is Mark Anderson. I'm the operations manager of Nashville and LPC for JD's Towing. And when Jesse here came to us, he up front about the situations that he had been in. And we're a company thus far that I've been in front of you now with 2 other guys that we've gave second chances to. And to be honest with you, they're 2 of our best employees. Was sitting down and mulling over some things, talking to Jesse. I felt like that he could contribute. He has been working around the yard, doing maintenance, cleaning trucks, doing whatever we need to do, and learning the process. He had 12 years experience, 10 years experience before then, but that was a long time ago, training with us. Thus far, he shows up every day. He does what we ask him to do, and haven't had any complaints from any customers.
All right. Are you a non-consent company?
I'm sorry?
Are you a non-consent company?
Yes.
Would you be willing?
No, non-consent.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
We're a consent. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
No, we only operate. We're considered roadside.
Yep.
We only operate when someone needs. We don't
Okay.
do any repossessions
Sure.
or anything like that.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me about the 2010 domestic assault?
I believe that was dismissed. It was a situation where my wife at the time, we had had a conversation. She had called the police and said that I said I was going to do something, but there was actually never any physical anything. And the case was actually dismissed because of that reason, as well as the fact that she actually had gone to court and said she was just mad at me, and it was dismissed.
The 2008 fugitive from justice?
That was a warrant that I had from Georgia for a bad check, and it was also dismissed once I went down there and took care of it.
And you're not currently on probation?
Yes, I am.
You are on probation. How long does that extend?
I'm in the same boat that the other guy. I don't know exactly when.
Okay. And what charge is that from?
Possession with intent, or I'm sorry, conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute.
And what date was that?
It was in 2010.
So 2010. Oh, I see that now. Yeah, okay.
It was, I believe, December 16th or 17th, 2010.
7 years ago.
I haven't had anything since. Don't plan on doing anything else.
And how often do you visit with your probation officer?
It's usually once a month.
Does that include drug, alcohol screening?
Yes, sir. I don't drink at all, so.
Okay. And then there's nothing since that 2010?
No, sir.
So I sure miss Pat McNally.
I'm sorry?
We have another
The gentleman that was sitting here.
who actually practices criminal law. And
He can read those much faster than we can.
Oh.
he puts our applicants through their paces.
Well, I want to be as transparent as possible. I'm not trying to hide anything.
I understand.
All I want to be able to do is just work and earn a living.
Serviceman. Also, to let you guys know, we do also have our employees to take random drug testing. So that is something that's
Right.
And that's all.
You've tested him since he's been working with you?
Yes, sir. We test everybody. Yes, sir. And we test them at random.
Now, how long has he been with you right now?
He's been around. How long you been around now? A couple months.
So we certainly respect your operation. You know, our job's to ensure the proper service and safety of the community.
Yes, sir.
And so we take this all very seriously.
Yes, sir.
But
Just the ones that were dismissed that were not listed, is that correct?
Correct.
I don't have any further questions.
I would make a motion for approval, but with restriction to JD's towing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
No nay.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Michael Propus, but we're going to move him to September.
If you would defer him to September, please.
Do we need to make a motion?
I think so.
Motion to defer.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is Christopher Sawyer.
You're good.
On making his application, he failed to list a 2016 driver's license charge.
That was it.
Was driving without a driver's license.
Did you have your driver's license suspended because of your other traffic tickets?
No, sir. Honestly, it was on my birthday that it renewed, and I went to Fall Creek Falls, and I didn't even look at it. Then when my brakes went out for the accident, the officer told me that that my ID wasn't good. So that week I went to go renew it, and I had no issues.
What'd you do at Fall Creek Falls?
Swimming, swimming with friends.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next is William Webb Jr.
Mr. Webb? William Webb? Well, Webb, I'm sorry. William Webb? He was noticed to attend, so.
Move to defer.
What are we seeing him for?
He was, when he made his application, he failed to list any of his charges.
Anything?
I'm sorry?
Anything?
Yeah, that's the page.
I'd like to make a motion to dismiss. He didn't list anything. I would say we would need to dismiss and make him reapply.
Looks like he had a driving with a suspended license in 2012.
There's some drug charges.
And then a simple possession of a Schedule 6 substance in 2013.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, application denied. Next is Matthew J. Whitman.
Mr. Whitman? In making his application, Mr. Whitman, it was a pretty good list of charges. Many of them were failure to provide insurance. There were a lot of some speedings and things like that. But he did list.
Has anybody talked to TOPRO about this gentleman? I mean, the only reason I ask is they've been very good. And if somebody from TOPRO says, yeah.
Again, we wouldn't hire anyone.
Right.
Until
they showed up.
If we talked, we've
Okay.
not had any communication with TOPRO.
Motion to deny.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Application denied for Mr. Whitman. Next, we have a new driver application for taxi cab driver by Brown Gahi.
Jibagi.
Jibagi. Jibagi. Thank you for correcting my pronunciation. Mr. Fields?
In making his application, he failed to disclose a 2004 DUI.
Would you like to make the statement?
About the DUI? He happened 13 years ago. I paid a lawyer $2,000 to handle the case. I traveled out of the country. When I came back, he told me the case he pleaded guilty on my behalf and he expunged the case. So I don't know how expungement, and I don't know how they find the the case came up because he told me you expunge it. And I was told by the lawyer that when you expunge it, you say it's supposed to be out of the public record. So I forgot, sincerely, I forgot to disclose it because I didn't remember.
Okay.
It's not been expunged also, so you may want to talk to your lawyer.
I will.
And you've listed Pink Taxi?
Yeah, the owner told me to come and work for him.
Okay, and he was just here, but he's not here any longer, so.
He was here.
Mr. Burrows, yes.
Yeah. In order for, if permits approved, we have to.
No, I understand. I just find that odd that he was here.
You listed a 2014 property damage from an accident.
Shelby County.
That was in Shelby County?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Burrows has signed. It's in his file. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
That was a confirmation from Mr. Burrows?
Yes.
With intent to hire?
Yes.
We require a report in writing from each company before they hire a driver.
Anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations. Mr. Fields, do we have any other business?
Not that I'm aware of.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes.
Motion for Billy to buy lunch.
Hey, where's the dinner?
Second.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.